I woke up some time later, surprised that I had fallen asleep. Bo was tucked in beside me, snoring. The truck was slowing down, and the man, Wesley, was rolling down his window. I rubbed my eyes and squinted out at the windshield. In front of us was a little building, like a ticket booth. A great wooden sign stretched above all 3 lanes of the road. Mount Rainier National Park, it said in bold capital letters. I could see someone in a park ranger uniform standing in the ticket window. The rain was really pouring now. I need to give you money, right? I asked groggily. Nah. You may want to duck down, though. Without asking any questions, I undid my seatbelt and slipped down in the front seat. Wesley pulled up to the window and slowed way down, but didn't stop. I was crouched low enough that I could see the top of the ticket window, but not the person inside. Howdy, Sheila. Wesley's voice was low and casual. Well, hey there, Wesley. Looks like you brought the weather with you. Wesley chuckled. Yeah, I guess. Sorry about that. You have a good afternoon now. The truck sped up and the window closed, and I crawled back into my seat. Wesley had his hand flopped lazily over the wheel. You work here? Well, kinda. I'm a biologist for the Park Service, so I do work in several of the parks up here in the Northwest. Oh, cool. A few miles more to paradise, he said. All right. Sharp little fist of fear punched into my stomach from the inside. Paradise, where it all really started, where it all really ended. Wesley dug into a paper bag sitting next to him on the seat and pulled out a sandwich wrapped in plastic wrap. You hungry? I looked at the sandwich, and before I could stop myself, I licked my lips. Wesley laughed. Go on. I ain't got much of an appetite. It's ham and cheese. No vegetables or nothing. Share it with your dog if you want. My stomach, despite all its sickness and worry, rumbled. In a few minutes, I'd be making the last big hike up a mountain. I needed to eat. I took the sandwich. Quite a storm, Wesley said, leaning forward over the wheel to look out the windshield. I pity any fool trying to climb this mountain in the next couple of days. I didn't say anything. I was thinking about Jess playing cards for hours with me when I was too sick to leave my bedroom, holding my secrets for me. Would even be hard for any rescue teams to make it up, he added. I chewed on the sandwich and handed every other bite to Bo. He wolfed them hungrily for my shaking fingers. The country music leaked softly out of the stereo. It was a lady singing slow. She sounded sad. You're just going up for sightseeing, huh? He asked. All by yourself? I swallowed a chewed up lump of meat and bread. Yeah, I was thinking of my mom falling asleep in the chair by my hospital bed. The wheels beneath me hummed. The rain tapped and pattered on the roof, the window, and the hood. My chewing slowed down to the pace of the mournful country song from the speakers. Bo was beside me, and the mountain was getting ever closer, and I wanted everything to never go back and never go forward from there. I wanted all the clocks everywhere to stop. And for a slow, warm moment, they did. I just came over from Spokane, Wesley was saying. I was only half listening. Through Wenatchee. Little town there, other side of the mountains. My ears twinged at this sound of my home, but not enough to pull me all the way out of my quiet. There's a boy missing over there. My teeth stopped for their chewing. The last bite of ham and cheese turned to glue in my mouth. I could feel him eyeing me out of the corners of his eyes. Yeah, I said. Yep. Went missing the day before yesterday, just disappeared. This whole side of the state's talking about it. I managed to start chewing again, enough to get the bite down. My stomach went back to its sick churning. My headache, which had almost fallen asleep when I woke up and hollered in my skull. That's too bad, I said. Wesley nodded and took another sip of his coffee. Where do you think he is? They're not sure. Spokane, they thought, but couldn't find him there. Thought he was in Lake Moses for a bit. Last I heard, they thought that they'd tracked him to Seattle, but that's as far as they got. They don't have a clue. So Jessie hadn't told. She'd kept my secret. Wesley looked over at me, then back out at the windshield. I gave the rest of the sandwich to Bo. Kid's got his dog with him, they say. My hand squeezed into nervous fists. I looked out the window at the slashing rain and didn't say anything back. The windshield wipers swiped back and forth, keeping the storm from blinding us. Well, I said when the silence got too heavy, but I didn't have anything else ready to say. I was going to say, I hope they find him, but it was such a lie, I couldn't get it out. I licked my lips and closed my eyes. I hope he's okay, I finally added. Uh-huh, me too. Wesley's voice was soft and low and growly and thoughtful. He drove on for 5 or 6 minutes without saying a word. I kept my forehead on the cool glass and left my left hand on my dog and argued in my mind. He knew. He must know. He was taking me to the police. No, maybe not. Maybe he was the world's dumbest biologist. There's plenty of dumb people in the world. Or maybe he knew and he didn't care. Here's what I don't get. Why anybody would try to stop me. All I wanted to do was die. That's the truth. I had a son once, Wesley said. I concentrated on keeping the sandwich down in my stomach. Good boy, too. Strong, funny, big loud laugh. My ears listened to his words, but my tired brain was working on something else. A plan. Somewhere near the top, I'd say that I had to go to the bathroom. He'd pull over and let me out. It was dark with clouds and storm. He joined the Army so he could go to college. Smart kid. There was nothing I wouldn't do for that boy. I'd go behind some trees and run, and me and Bo. By the time he started following, if he even did, we'd be long gone. I nodded against the glass. When he got sent to Iraq, it nearly killed me. I ain't really the worrying type, but I swear I didn't sleep a full night from the moment he shipped out. He was just so far away. I couldn't help him. I couldn't do anything for him. I couldn't take care of my boy. It would mean more walking, a longer climb, but if I waited until we were almost there, it wouldn't be that much more. And it was my only choice. Wesley knew exactly who I was. I was going to have to escape. I noticed that Wesley had stopped talking. I looked over at him. His jaw was clenched tight and his eyebrows pinched together. I could see his bottom lip shaking just a little, but his voice, when he spoke again, was still smooth and low and even. And when I got that knock on my door, I knew what it was before I opened it and saw the uniforms there. I knew, and they told me. They told me my boy was dead, thousands of miles away, dead. I kept my eyes on him, and he kept his eyes on the road. His were wet. The next words weren't quite as smooth and quite as low and even. A daddy's supposed to keep his kids safe. He's supposed to protect them. That's all there is to do. That's the truth. I couldn't help my boy. He breathed in and out through his nose. I'm sorry, I said. He nodded. Me too. He looked away out the other window and took a deep breath and then faced forward again. I saw Mark's parents on the news. The missing kids, I mean. I almost flinched at the sound of my own name. They sure looked scared and sad. I felt really bad for them. I swallowed, then swallowed again. I knew I had to be sad or mad. One or the other. I made my choice. I dug my fingernails into my palms. I curled my toes tight into angry balls in my shoes. I bet he's fine, I said, and my voice was as hard and mad as the storm outside. I bet he's just fine and doesn't need anybody's help. Wesley raised his eyebrows and pursed his lips. He tilted his head to the side a little and gave a shrug. Maybe, or maybe not. He licked his lips and his voice dropped down. Thing is, they just announced that this kid is sick. The last word hung in the warm air of the truck like a rough poke with a sharp finger. Got cancer, apparently. I breathed tight breaths through my nostrils and gritted my teeth. I hate the word sick. I hate the word cancer. Had it a while, he said. Fought it hard. Thought he'd licked it. But then Wesley's voice broke off, and he took a breath. Well, they say it just came back recently. I hated the way he said that. It was the tone that people used to say crummy things like, I'm so sorry. That's too bad, I said. Trees zoomed past me, black and gloomy in the stormlight. I tried to look at each one. Yeah, it's too bad, but the docs say he still has a shot. He might still lick it, they say. But if he doesn't get in soon for the treatment, well, that'll be it. It'll come back for good, and that'll be it. I swallowed a bitter lump in my throat. That's too bad, I said again, my voice scratchy. My fingers dug deeper into Bo's fur, scratched down into his skin, and pulled him toward me across the seat. He stretched up and licked my arm gently. I spoke in a whisper, but I think Wesley heard me. But it always comes back. I cleared my throat and looked over at him. They said all that on the news? They told everybody that? Mm-hmm. Just this morning. My tongue licked angrily at my lips. Isn't that personal? Isn't that private? Why is that everybody's business? Wesley shrugged. I suppose they were just trying to get everyone looking. Let everyone know how serious the problem was. It's his problem, I interrupted, maybe sounding harsher than I should. It's no one else's problem. Maybe they should just leave him alone. There was more silence, more of nothing but rain and tires and the engine and the radio and the sound of us three breathing there together. I rested my head back against the window. It was Wesley who broke the silence. So what do you suppose he's doing, that poor sick kid? I wanted to pull Bo up onto my lap and bury my nose into his fur and hug him and not answer, but I kept my forehead pressed to the window, and I left my hand resting on my dog, and I closed my eyes. I bet he's going off to die, I said. Climbing a mountain, maybe. Wesley blew a breath out through his nose, and I think he nodded. And why would he go off and do that? I don't know. Maybe he's tired of being that poor sick kid, I said, throwing his words back at him. Anger made my words stronger. Maybe he wants to be the hero for once. Maybe he's had everything else taken away from him. His friends, his family, his future. All the stuff he wants to do. His life. So maybe all he's got left is his death. That's all he's got. And so he wants it. You think he wants it? I closed my eyes harder. No, but he's got it. And hospitals stink. And treatments stink. And friends watching you be sick stinks. And watching your parents cry stinks. So maybe he just wants to climb a mountain and disappear. I opened my eyes and looked right at him. Maybe that's all he wants. Or at least all he gets. And maybe they should let him have it. Wesley nodded. He grimaced, shook his head. Life's a tricky thing, isn't it, son? His voice was pained. Figure it all out, for all of us. Figuring it all out for all of us. We're all in this thing together, but sometimes there's just no knowing what way to go. I didn't say anything. Sometimes even the right answers sound wrong if you don't like the question. That's the truth. So what do you think a fella should do? A fella that maybe finds this kid walking along a road and knows what the kid has and he knows what's going on. What should he do? I kept my eyes on Wesley's face. My voice was soft. It wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't angry anymore. I think you should pick him up and help him. He should take him to where he needs to go so he can do what he needs to do. In the speakers, a guitar twanged. A man's voice cried. Outside was rain and darkness. I never got to help my boy, Wesley said. I looked away, back to the storm outside. Maybe you can help this sick kid. Chapter 9.5. Dark day spent alone. pacing, crying, thinking hard. Somewhere a lost friend. She watched the news on the TV, only a quick mention of Mark, a little update before the weather, the phone number to call. She had it memorized. The bigger news now was the storm coming down from the north. Freezing temperatures, high winds, lots of precipitation. A dangerous winter storm in the late spring, they said. Unusual, severe. Authorities are suggesting that people stay off of the roads and indoors, the announcer said. Only travel if you need to. There is a map of the state showing the clouds moving and the snow falling. Snow only in the mountains, they said. That was supposed to be the good news. She looked at Mount Rainier on the map, lost in white. "Oh, Mark," she whispered to the screen. She wondered if his parents were watching. She hoped not. They didn't know where he was, but no matter where they thought he might be, having your kid lost in a storm must feel worse. "It's getting ugly out here, folks," the weatherman continued, "but it's going to get a lot worse." Jess was struck by a sudden terrible thought. What if he wanted her to tell? What if he needed her to tell? What if it was huddled somewhere? He was huddled somewhere, shivering and terrified, wondering why she hadn't called for help. What if she was supposed to rescue him? Shivering, searching, doubts and fear like clouds and snow, lost inside a storm.